You better be listening to Sleazoids or I must bring you.
突如北九州のある観光町は恐怖のどん底に叩き込まれた。戦慄すべき親子の出現、そしてうなりを上げて猛襲する空飛ぶ大怪獣ラドン。このボーイに包まれて東洋全土はついに SOS を発す。
私たちを助けに。
モスラ発見。
いいですか？標備人を島に返さない限りモスラはやってくるんですよ。
この日本へ、この東京へ。そうなってからじゃもう遅いんですよ。
日本の善ちゃん食いついたら離れっこないよ。
だってモスラに食いつけって言うんですか？
何？
善ちゃん、モスラが横田基地に現れたのよ。
横田
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sleazoids, the podcast where we go down the rabbit hole of 20th century genre fare from the most influential canon classics to the trashiest exploitation films we can get our hands on and invite you to tag along, helping us create a canon of sleaze. Each week is a double feature Grindhouse style where we discuss two films loosely related by subject, genre, actor, filmmaker, or franchise. And at the end of each episode, along with our honorary Sleazoid, which you can become by subscribing on Patreon.
Next week, we are talking swords, sandals, and fantasy, so join the sleaze.
That's right. We decide on all the official ratings and rankings of every film that we cover as well. And Patreon subscribers also get an honor shout out, 2 bonus episodes every single month, which we have been doing for, I'm trying to do quick math here, 8 years, 9 years? I don't remember.
Like
we're going to get to 10 at some point here, and there's going to be a lot of bonus episodes. So patreon.com/Sleazoids podcast if you're interested. And speaking of which, we did have a bunch of people make the jump this week, so I'm going to give them their shout outs here, but I need to extend this so I can see the full names. We had Will sign up. We had Mr. Ruby, Connor, Hertzville, Jacob, XX, Schmada Naylor, Nicholas, Callisti, Josh, SW Gavin, Hank G, Mode Depeche, the reverse of Depeche Mode. I like it. Sasha, Craig Crimson, Dylan Waite, Angel B, Andrew Ansel, April, and last but not least, Scott McVie. So thanks so much to all of you folks. I hope you are enjoying all those bonus episodes, and we appreciate that support.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's the one plug for the week. As always, the other plug is Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you were listening on either one of those platforms, scroll down to the bottom there and give us a good old rating and review. It helps us climb the ranks and find new listeners. And the last plug, as always, is merch. If you have yet to get your Sleazoids dad cap or our blowout-themed poster design shirt by friend of the pod, Brandon Lim of Black Belt Cinema, there's a link in the description to go and check out both of those, as well as over at sleazoidspodcast.com. But that is it for the intro. Welcome back to another week. As always, I am your host, Josh Lewis, and joining me also, as always, is my co-host,
Jamie Miller. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome. I believe 2 weeks ago would have been the last time you folks over here on the main feed would have heard from us, where we would have had a special returning guest, Andrew Jupin of the We Hate Movies podcast, on to talk 2 movies he actually loves and doesn't hate. We talked about some silly, gory 80s horror. We did Sam Raimi's slapstick splatter masterpiece, Evil Dead 2 from 1987, and we paired it with what Andrew called the Italian Evil Dead, Lamberto Bava's very colorful horror zombie-esque siege film inside a movie theater called Demons from 1985.
Yes, and I love how straightforward it is. Just demons killing people in a movie theater for 90 minutes. It's a beautiful thing. Wonderful
and
films.
Also samurai sword and dirt bikes. And
It really goes into a full 80s just extravaganza.
Yeah, so we haven't heard that episode. That was 2 weeks ago over on the main feed. But then last week over on the Patreon, exclusively for the listeners over there, we decided that we wanted to talk about a bit of a bleak 90s indie crime film double feature, specifically actually of 2 young future auteurs who are making their directorial debuts at the age of 24 and 25 and made us want to kill ourselves. We talked about James Gray's tragic mob hitman / generational family melodrama called Little Odessa from 1994. And then we paired it with, over on the Danish side, Nicholas Winding Refn's much more frantic and juvenile and chaotic drug dealer thriller Pusher from 1996.
Yeah, Pusha really has one of the dumbest characters that you kind of enjoy watching get deeper and deeper into shit. And yeah,
you know what you're in for as soon as you look at his bathroom mirror and you see the Travis Bickle and Tony Montana like printouts on his bathroom mirror too. You're like, yep.
Oh yeah, the heroes. And then I honestly, the maturity of Gray in Little Odessa is pretty impressive for a 25-year-old. Like specifically the way he looks at the perspective of the father, even though he's also made out to be quite a piece of shit. It's great stuff.
Yeah, two very different sensibilities and very different styles, and both have new movies coming out this year. So we wanted to, get back in the zone of James Gray and Nicholas Winding Refn. So if you haven't heard that episode, that was last week over on the Patreon. Go back and check it out if you're interested. But moving on to this week, we have a very special returning guest making his return, and I think we're going to have to give him official status as our resident kaiju correspondent, I think, at this point.
Yes, the monster correspondent.
Please.
That's right. The monster correspondent is maybe even better. But here to give us a little kaiju summer action, we have Cameron Fetter from Pod About List. Cameron, welcome back, man.
How's it going? Happy, thrilled even to be back in the Sleazoverse.
That's right.
And happy to be schooling you guys in some classic kaiju. You guys aren't doing enough of it.
No, I agree.
Do you know what? You selecting it did make me go, damn, we haven't done this in a while.
Yeah,
someone really does need to hold us to account, put our feet to the fire, and be.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, "Hey guys, I'm watching.
Where are these monsters at?" No, I honestly like rewatching these or rewatching one of them and then watching one for the first time. I love these things. I just love watching giant monsters destroy things. It's great.
Yeah,
great.
There's nothing better. There's truly nothing better in the universe.
Yeah, but before we get too deep into monster talk, which I'm very excited to do with Cam since she is such a prolific watcher, Cam, from what I understand, you have also a brand new comedy anthology that is coming out soon. Tell us a little bit about it before we get into it.
Sure, yeah. So it's called Chunks. It's Patreon and Chapo Trapo's co-production. It's a comedy anthology movie. It's coming out on July 19th. It's going to be available. There's going to be, I think, a live stream premiere on that day, and then it's going to be up for streaming VOD afterwards. And a lot of great people. It's an classic anthology. Who doesn't love an anthology
crazy amount
movie?
Of Sleazoid's guests.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I thought to myself, what would be the perfect place to come and promo this movie? We got Nate Fisher and Will Sennett. We have episode 1. We have my good friend Pierce Campion, the GOAT himself. We have Nick Mullen. We have we have Sandy Honig also. Just lots of great people contributing. I'm really excited for everyone to see it. The segment that I co-directed with my co-host Caleb and starring Patrick, who we're going to make a movie star officially, is it's called The Eater, and I don't want to say too much about it, but it might creep you out.
Dude, I'm so stoked.
Stoked. That's all I have to say on that subject. But it's patreon.com/chunkstv. You can I think even pre-order it now. So check that out, movie fans.
Hell yeah, please do.
If there are any movie fans listening.
Some of them are out there. And also, if any of you were fans of Rap World, there sounds like there's a lot of people who were part of Rap World.
Yes, that's true.
Involved in this, and EFIS. There's lots of filmmakers collaborating here. Yes. I like it. So definitely go and check that out. But Cameron, you've been on the show a lot. You know how it works. We have the guests bring on the double feature with them. So what 2 films did you bring with you this week? And I think we kind of know why you paired them together, but why these specific 2 when you had a whole bunch of kaiju movies to pick from?
Yes. So I am bringing on Ishirō Honda's RODAN and MOTHRA. And I am picking them because they are they're standalone. We'll call them, they're star makers. They're the characters the actors that starred in these movies went on to battle it out much more. But there's I personally just love, I think Ishirō Honda can basically do no wrong, and these ones are some of the more well-known and better ones from the earlier part. I guess Mothra's not so much from the earlier part of his career, but
it is, I guess, in the monsters department though, because it is his third, I believe. Because he did
both
this
of
one...
these predate all of the Versus movies, so for me that is enough to be kind of considered like kind of early in the cycle.
Yeah, I think so
for sure. Because like he makes Godzilla, he makes Rodan, he makes Mothra, and only after doing those three do you finally hit like King Kong versus Godzilla.
Right.
And then from there, they never looked back, and no movie was honestly none of the movies were really like these two. Again, they always had like you at least had two of them, or you had some sort of story where two of them met up and fought each other.
They had Dogura was after this, and then I think Atragon is after this too, but those are even like kind of like
Dude,
incidentally
you're so deep into this. I haven't even seen those. Who are those guys? What the fuck?
Dogura is like a big kind of tentacle monster in the sky that kind of is mainly interferes with a heist, is what I remember. It's like a heist is going on, and then Atragon is not a monster. It's about, but there's a monster named Manda in it who eventually shows up again and destroy all monsters. But he is just a big sea serpent type guy.
So I have seen that guy, because for context, my only like knowledge of this genre really was that at some point during COVID, I think I bought that giant Criterion like Showa era Godzilla box, and I had nothing to do, so I literally went through the whole box in chronological order, which is fantastic. It was some of the best days of my life.
It's unbelievable. It's such a good box set. I mean, I think it's the best. I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I think it's the best box set ever, besides the fucking packaging, which they could have. I don't like.
They could have protected those discs a little bit better.
Yeah, no, not great. But I mean, if I have one message to impart to anybody, it's that you got to go into that back catalog. There's gold. There's gold in them hills. He directed so many fucking movies. There's so many like just little known movies that are like this that are so good. Matango.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm excited to do these, because I had never, like, these aren't included in that box. So like these were ones that I had seen before, but I had to like hunt them out specifically because I really liked Mothra and I really liked Rodan, so I'm gonna go find their solo movies and stuff like that. So like I feel like that was the next stage of our watching, which makes sense for the show too, because we've done the original Godzilla, and then we've done a couple of like we've done versus Mothra, destroy all monsters. I think we did the Ghidorah movie as well.
But I think I did destroy all monsters with you guys, but I can't remember what I did it with. It was probably the Ghidorah one. That would make sense.
Yeah, I remember.
We've been doing the show too long, man. We've been podcasting too long.
Rodan was actually one I went and found myself one day, because after I went down the rabbit hole of the Godzilla versus, because we did a couple episodes, I had to watch more monster stuff. I was in love with seeing how they would have the different suits on guys, and the way they'd use like puppetry and everything, the miniature work. It's amazing. So,
oh my god, it's the most incredible effects work.
It was the Guyver.
Yes. It was the Guyver. Oh yeah, that's a good call. Wow, good job, me. The Guyver's fun. I mean, what can you? I mean, it's all just monster suits. That's basically the best thing that anyone ever came up with. It's hard to beat.
Yes,
and I'm sad that it's not around so much anymore.
Agreed.
It was quite the magic trick, and I'm excited to talk about some more guys in suits destroying miniatures today. So let's do it. Let's jump right into it. Let's do it chronologically here, and we'll talk about Ishirō Honda's follow-up to Godzilla, the first one, Rodan.
第一攻撃部隊準備完了。攻撃開始。はい、攻撃開始。よし。
All right, we are talking Rodan, or Rodan the Flying Monster, or Rodan Giant Monster from the Sky, depending on which title you got, or which one you saw, which copy you're watching. But it's a 1956 kaiju movie directed by Ishirō Honda, written by Takeshi Kimura and Takeo Murata, and starring Kenji Sahara as a young mining engineer whose co-workers keep disappearing and dying in the mines, which eventually kind of sparks him, and also a lot of scientific and military officials more than him, because he gets amnesia halfway through the movie, to investigate and discover that there are some prehistoric monsters down in the mines, including our flying buddy RODAN. Big bird, big sort of lizard, kind of. We'll get into it. This is our third time, though, talking about legendary Japanese filmmaker Ishirō Honda, who alongside his special effects collaborator Eiji Tsuburaya, and together those two basically changed the Japanese film industry forever with a little guy you may have heard of named Godzilla, which when we covered that movie, we kind of talked about how, you know, in the 30s and 40s, it kind of developed from the fact that Honda alternated between working as an assistant director at Toho, working on documentaries and comedies and basically whatever work they would throw his way, sci-fi movies, until in between, I guess you could say, multiple times, basically a decade of being forcefully drafted into the army during World War II, which for a lot of reasons he was not stoked about.
He did 3 tours, I think, something like that. So
yeah, he kept having to get called back, and I don't think he was crazy about it. And so Godzilla in 1954 was famously kind of born from this experience where he had a Toho producer tell him, you know, sci-fi monster adventure B movies were really taking off in the international market, in the American market, and he should look into making one. And instead he was like, well, I'm actually going to pour my soul into what became like one of the most striking and nightmarish, like black and white disaster monster movies ever made, and which contained a lot of sophisticated ideas about war and science and nuclear holocaust and the Japanese psyche post-atomic bomb, while also showcasing many different things, including one of the most propulsive composers to ever do it in Akira.
Ifukube,
butcher this. Ifukube is exactly right. And also some just incredibly stylized miniature and analog special effects to realize this giant bastard spawn of the hydrogen bomb dinosaur stomping through various cities that we've all come to know and love, and who, as Cam has already mentioned here, became one of the biggest movie stars of his era and spawned a million sequels and spin-offs and shows, and
still today it's crazy. New one this year, new one next year.
I was going to say it's going to be dated by the time this actually comes out, but I guess this week I'm pretty sure they're dropping the trailer for the sequel to Godzilla Minus Zero.
Minus Zero.
Minus Zero, that's what it's called.
I thought they were going to go -2, but -0 seems weird to me, but I'll be there.
Yeah, go for it. Why not? Which is kind of the return, actually, to them being kind of harrowing disaster movies again, because we're going to talk about it a little bit. Not so much here, but we have talked about it before, that like the Godzilla sort of series, and it did become kind of like a family-friendly, kind of icon, like a guy who wrestled other guys in monster suits in various fun environments, rather than the dark, harrowing symbol of nuclear war on the precipice that he kind of started out as.
Totally. And I think that's what's really interesting too about, specifically, I was when I was rewatching these two, Rodan and Mothra, I was actually really struck by it, because I feel like I also am always thinking that, like, about the how it's funny that it became like a kind of a kids franchise, and in my head I kind of thought of Rodan and Mothra as like belonging to that a little bit, like being a little more on the goofy side, and they are a little more, they're definitely more goofy than Godzilla. I mean, the original is just so fucking moody and like dark, but I was really kind of this time I was kind of looking for it, and I was like, wow, there actually is a surprising amount of like depth and like the Godzilla kind of anti-war horror genealogy is kind of still there. I was gonna say these definitely have a little bit more, obviously, color to them that we'll talk about, but I was gonna say, for sure, I had the exact same reaction. I remembered these in my mind like, oh yeah, like Manila does slapstick, and like these don't have any of that in them. They are actually fairly straightforward and sincere, just adventure movies that do actually, when things get dark and when characters, like, for example, fall in a cave and get slashed up, it's like, oh, there's
blood here and everyone's freaking out, and like you're actually, you know,
and even like
upsetting by 1950s movie standards.
and even like too like I get there's one thing we'll get to when we talk about Mothra, but like even in Rodan this time around watching it, I was very struck by like, oh, the imagery of like a giant thing with wings flying over your city and your city exploding is like, oh, that is still the atomic bomb. You know what I mean? Like I kind of like, to some degree I was like, oh, these are moving away from that, and they kind of are. You can tell it's starting to like, it's the steps are being taken, you know, bit by bit. But it is interesting that like I feel like there's such a kind of like, I guess the public perception of the series is so concentrated into just the original movie being kind of like, this was the only one that was serious. And it definitely is a lot more serious than a lot of them. But I feel like I'm always trying to get the word out. I'm like, that's not really true. Like there's still a lot on their mind. You know what I mean? Even the ones that seem goofy. And I feel like people are so willing to write stuff off because there's rubber monster suits in it. And I'm like, no. You have to watch it.
And this one, for the most part, I mean, it does feel even lighter just based on the fact that this one, it was filmed in color as well, compared to Godzilla. The black and white of Godzilla just feels like it adds an incredibly different atmosphere in itself.
Totally.
And even with this, though, it's still, when they make the transitions to the destruction and you see all the details with the color, I do think that creates kind of a visceral effect.
It really does.
But in the location work that they do, like when they find certain sections, or maybe it's a set in itself, but whatever they're doing for the background matte paintings and within the miniatures and mixing them all together with the real locations, it's pretty flawless. And it's really lush too. Like where they have the mine in the beginning, there's just a bunch of forestry in the background, and it just it's very well crafted where he's setting the camera. It does feel a little like we're transitioning into something lighter maybe as it goes, but we're going to discuss things in both films here that, like you guys said, are much more violent. Like when they just come upon dead bodies in the mine, or there's a couple moments I'm going to save with Mothra that get pretty violent. So
that's what I was gonna say. I like rewatching Rodan. It was pretty obvious to see that like all of the basic appeal, if you liked that first Godzilla movie, like a lot of it's here. Like the analog monster movie effects.
Yes.
You could argue they've developed some. They've even gotten a little bit better at some of them.
Totally.
Some of the like fun, colorful creature design that they're doing is it pops off the screen when it's like removed away from the stark black and white photography, which again maybe moves some of the haunting overall mood of the movie itself, but is still a great effect. The score is still very bombastic.
The score is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. There still is some environmental and like military anxiety imagery for sure populating this stuff. I think for them, like the only thing I would even deem silly in this is that I guess the original inspiration for the idea of Rodan is like pilot UFO stories. And so like there's when we first meet him, there's a little bit of like we're chasing after like just a mysterious thing, like what could it be, and like it has a little bit more of like just a classical adventure tone to it rather than necessarily as haunting of almost like a guilt-ridden quality that original Godzilla has. Like it doesn't, even though they give these, they give Rodan the same backstory that he is like mutated based on atomic radiation. Now they kind of do it in like a throwaway exposition scene. It's not like as much of like a harrowing in the bones of the movie. But there's still a lot to like here. And for me, the biggest thing is that Honda is just someone who's very classical in terms of his approach to this stuff. So I like that he builds his story in this kind of tense, slow burn way. I enjoy some of the downtime, I will say, with the scientists, the military officials, because I think some of it's better than other stuff. I know people kind of complain about that in Godzilla movies all the time, even though you watch the original Godzilla and there is way more downtime with characters than there is Godzilla in the movie. It just depends on how much you actually enjoy the conversations they're happening or they're having. But like, I don't mind that, like, he develops his stories and how he gets a feel for the environment and the community, the way his camera will like steadily and sturdily just accumulate characters and locations and kind of actually generate a sense of like, ooh, this spooky set piece in the mines where characters are not safe and the men are disappearing and some of them have these mysterious gruesome slash wounds. And then that you watch that confusion and fear like ripple through the village and then start to escalate to, you know, the military officials who start hearing about it. And I like his pacing of this stuff.
Yeah,
I think also too, I mean, he's something that really, like, I mean, I've been watching his movies my entire life pretty much. I mean, the Godzilla is the first thing I remember liking, I think, pretty much in my life. And something that kind of has hit me as I've gotten older and like gotten more into film is like how good his like compositions are even outside of any of the like I think because there's so much crazy special effects work that he has to incorporate in and like shoot around and like composite and like be like, okay, we have to shoot this like this because there's going to be this matte painting here, or we're going to have this like, you know, superimposed monster going over the background. Is that
we're going to have all these characters
scenes
in the foreground on the field, and there's going to be a giant bird puppet in the background peeking over the hills, which is an amazing shot.
Fucking good. But I think him having to do that really means that even when he's not doing that, he's framing things like that a little bit. Like there are conversation shots in this movie where I'm like, oh, this is giving me the same like feeling of awe as when I'm watching that bird come over the horizon, because he really has the depth down because of that, I think.
Yeah, I think he likes to really focus on the perspective of the human beings in a sense where everything feels much bigger than them. And now there's this sense of having to, well, it's most of the movies have this, and it helps when you're going from character to character, like Minor to the military guys to the love interests to all that. It has this sense of working together, which in the movies themselves usually result also in kind of a bitter irony at the end where they have to kill the monster in some way, and sometimes they actually make that sadder than others. I find both of these films, which will be interesting, they kind of have more of a sadness about it. Mothra has a slightly different ending, but just the way they use Mothra as well.
Yeah, I can't wait, because we'll talk about Mothra. Mothra is the first one where they go, Mothra is like the hero of them.
right. But there is still that sense of camaraderie and people coming together to overcome this thing that is much larger than them, that they have also created themselves, really. So, and I also like, just because they have to, in both these films, do flying monsters, he's forced to take on different ways of tackling the technical effects, like having POV of pilots eventually because they're flying with
that POV shot is so cool.
Yeah.
That is, with the like fake clouds.
Right.
I really think, I totally agree. I think, they're just the restrictions that like, the restrictions of the special effects they had access to create something that is so like 1,000 times more interesting than it would be if they could just like make it look perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And both of the films too have a kind of a transition when it comes to the monsters themselves. I think RODAN just, it seems to form from these like larvae monsters that are in the beginning, that happen so quickly too, by the way. I love when it's just like, it's the two love interests talking in their living room, and then all of a sudden one of these giant worms just bursts through the wall and starts attacking them.
It's almost like a giant like ant, like the Tingler kind of creature, just like with pincer claws, just like breaks in. That's another moment that definitely feels like a little bit sillier, but I love that because not only is that, because it's a fake out, right? Like this is the thing where you've spent the early portions of this movie in a mining village near Mount Aso, and you're just sitting there being like, these corpses of men keep coming up, and some of them keep disappearing, and there's talk in the village over like, are these a bizarre series of murders? And like the safety engineer Kawamura's fiance Kyo is, I think, the one who takes some of the brunt of it in the community, because her brother Goro is one of the first guys who goes missing.
Right.
And so they think he's the guy who's just been killing people and running away. And you get these creepy sequences in the dark tunnels of just like miners and the group of friends like trudging through like chest high water just to be like yanked underwater by an an unseen creature, and they're screaming and gunshots, and there's a shadow, and there's these screeching noises, and you're like, what the fuck is these things?
And I love the like pulsating synth sound that the monsters kind of give off. There's always, in every single movie, they've had something where they create a different sound design for the monster itself. Obviously, Godzilla has the iconic scream. This one has this like pulsating synth.
And Rodan's roar is great too.
Yeah, totally. And
they actually ended up switching Rodan's. They used Rodan's roar for Ghidorah in the Heisei movies.
Oh, okay.
And they got rid of Ghidorah's awesome Showa roar, which is when he goes.
yeah. It's just, I love how individual they are. It's actually, it feels as if they're their own species with their own language and everything.
Totally.
It's very cool.
Yeah. I love that moment when the big, I think they're called Meganulon, I think. When it shows up in the doorway, I was like, I bet people were fucking screaming in that movie theater. Like that was like, that's like a 1950s jump scare. Like that is one of the most jump scary moments I've seen in a 50s movie. I feel like
it's really detailed too. One of the things I loved is the perspective it takes where you're in the living room with it, and it's kind of like tall wise, it's about the size of a 6-foot human, but then the length you can't tell immediately. It just looks like this big round fat slug thing. And then they take a different perspective where you see it kind of slugging along the little town and its like walkway, and it looks like it's, I don't know, 12 feet long or something like that.
It's really long.
It's amazing. It just looks so good. It very much looks like what Mothra looks like in the beginning before she transforms in her movie. So it kind of feels connected in that way.
And I was going to say, that's what I enjoy so much about when we get introduced to these, because like you're like, oh, these are what the monsters are. And you're sitting there going, well, I've seen what the poster is. I know these aren't what the monsters are. And right. that's why it's such a fantastic fake out, because the characters are like, oh my God, there's these horrifyingly huge bugs that are just slashing us and eating us. And oh my God, this is what this movie's about. And it takes about maybe 5 minutes after actually seeing one to get to the big set piece of it being like chased out of town and up a mountain, and, you know, great wide shots of the climbing, and, you know, characters trying to approach it and kind of shoot at it. And you very quickly find out that, wait, this is actually just the food for an even bigger monster.
Yeah, I know. I think it's so cool to do a monster movie where the first half is a monster movie and then the second half is a monster movie about the monster that eats the first monster.
And you're already freaking out about the first one.
Like that structure is so cool.
It's so clever, and it's the type of thing where I'm like surprised that I haven't seen a movie do that today. And also, you know, if there was a movie that did that today, it would be very like belabored. You know what I mean? They would like make sure that you understood that was the structure of the movie. Yeah. But in this, it's kind of understated, and it's just like, yeah, you can tell they planned it out that it's like the first half is this, and then it's like, well, actually, this thing is 20 times as big as that,
and way more destructive. So it's like you thought whatever we showed you in the first half is huge. Just wait till you see the finale in the second half.
And it's also a really fun. I mean, something that I watch a lot of fucking terrible monster movies, and the thing that happens in all of the bad ones is that you don't see the monster until the last like 5 minutes,
right?
Like, and it's obviously for budget reasons, and then they like, you know, write around it in the script to be like, this is the lead up. So anything that like kind of segments that and is like, you know what, like we're going to show you the monster early because we have a reason, like to be like, we're saving the monster for the second half still, but we're going to give you a different monster first to make up for it.
We're giving you a 2-for-1.
Exactly.
It's
like
beautiful.
It's great, especially for this time when there's so many 50s monster movies that are just guys talking on a single set for, you know, 60 minutes and then 10 minutes of monster and then it ends.
And I gotta say, there's some really funny shots even with the worm kind of monster. The one when he's going over the hilltop and they're all shooting at it. I don't know if it's actually doing it, but it looks at one point like it gets up a bit and starts jiggling around and moving like it's mocking them as it's shooting them. It's just, there's some image there that made me laugh really hard. But then it starts to lead into, as you're saying, this ends up being food. And that shot where the miner has his kind of like his memory comes back because he hits his head, he gets knocked out.
One of the best scenes in the movie.
This scene It gave me nightmares
awesome.
when I was a kid. It scared me so bad, and I watched and I was like, I guess it was the music probably that did it, but like in my brain, like that scene was so scary to me, and I was like, oh, it had like in my brain, it's like he sees the eggs and he like screams and freaks out, and immediately we see Rodan. Like that was like, but it's like no, it's like a whole sequence, and it was just so harrowing to me that I collapsed it into one like jump scare moment in my memory.
Right. There's like so many layers where he wakes up, you see the actual layer itself. There's all these holes in the walls where the food larvae things are coming out of it. Kind of reminded me actually a little bit of King Kong, the Peter Jackson's, where they see all the centipedes come out of the walls and stuff. And then you just see the giant egg. And like you said, the score is so ominous and big. There's a lot of atmosphere, but it still feels very loud and big. And
it's definitely one of the moodiest sequences and I love the visual like nature of how it's put together, in the sense of like, you know, essentially what happens to the safety engineer for the mine is he's part of this big chase where they try to, you know, slide down the mountain and get, you know, chase the creature, the bug into the mines. And he does this big heroic moment where he crushes it with a mine cart. And it's a moment where he's kind of putting himself on the line for all the other characters, and it causes an earthquake. And it's one that causes him to fall even deeper into the mines, so far that he hits his head. He suffers from amnesia, and he doesn't even recognize his coworkers or his fiance. And so, you know, this starts to coincide with sort of larger fears of like, oh my God, are we going to like set this volcano off by all this like action we're doing around it? And also they're like, there's a UFO out there at supersonic speeds doing like plane trail skywriting. And, you know, obviously we kind of have an idea this UFO is probably going to turn out to be Rodan, but so far it's just a jet reporting a giant thing with wings, and that's all we know about it.
One of the coolest images is where they have the plane beside Rodan far away, and it's kind of like when you look up and you can see just a jet in the sky, but then Rodan's is like 10 times bigger. The smoke that it leaves behind, the wingspan and everything, it just gives you kind of that idea of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, but this is what I mean about like the slow burn, just accumulation of it. It reminds me of like when I watch a movie like Jaws, where I feel like I know the shark is coming, but I love this tense, like you get little glimpses and you see little hints of ideas. And that's why I love the build up. Like it takes a long time to get to the moment where his amnesia, his memory comes back to him. And I love that it is his fiance handing him an egg.
Well, it's actually, and it's actually even it's foreshadowing, because it's two birds in a cage, and the fiance is like, "Oh, look, the birds are in love," and she hands him two eggs, actually.
Yes,
because we don't even find out till near like the very, very end that there's actually. Well, hey, I won't spoil it right now. God, no, there's two Rodans.
There's some lovebirds out there.
We were already talking about the 2-for-1, where we had two monsters for one, and now we get two Rodans. This movie's great.
I know,
I just love the close up of the eggs and the close up on his face. There's almost something like, it reminds me of like when a character in a David Lynch movie has a memory.
Yes,
has a
I was literally going.
I was
literally going to compare it to the Mulholland Drive diner scene. I was like, that is why it scared me so much as a kid. Is like he's looking at eggs, like who cares? But his reaction and that score is like so real and like
followed by the matte painting of the giant egg and the miniature as it hatches and it feasts on all the little bugs, and suddenly all of the scaled fears of like the bugs that you've already had, you're like, oh wait, this thing is way bigger. And you go back to this character and you see
the
why
baby
he's wide-eyed and why he's freaking out.
Is like gnarly too. Like it's like, it really looks like it's like goofy, but it also really does have that, like, they really gave it that quality of like, this is like a thing with no consciousness that is hungry. Like it really has, like, it really, like, more than I feel like that one scene is maybe one of my favorite in like all of Honda's career. And I think it is like one of the few times that like one of these rubber suit monsters is like genuinely like scary and like unsettling. Like it really is
just a
creepy.
baby bird.
Yeah.
It does feel like something. Again, I think that score really helps with the ominous quality too. That something incredibly large and doomed is about to come. And I what is very funny though is having that scene insane. Where I feel the same way. Where I feel like kind of that this horror is coming. This thing that is so much more powerful than us. And then they do the next scene where he's kind of pointing out the specific dinosaur or prehistoric creature that it might represent, and they use like a cartoon, like an animated book, and they line up a wing that they get from one of the planes. With
they were like,
book.
it's at the exact angle.
It's gotta be this exact bird.
What's even funnier than that is when he first has amnesia and he's first waking up, and they're like give it like it's like they would be giving him like cognitive tests or something, but they're just showing him dinosaur cards. Like, hey man, you're awake. Here, check this out. This is a Triceratops.
Totally.
He's like, oh,
yeah, they
don't remember.
A pteranodon in the film. It kind of just looks like a pterodactyl. I'm not sure if this is like another terminology.
A pteranodon. Yeah, this is a real one. And that's actually where the name Rodan comes from. I think in Japanese it's Radon. Actually, the A and the O are switched.
Oh, okay.
That makes sense.
And then it's cool because they give a little bit of a breakdown of the wingspan and how much power it produces, which explains why there's this scene before where there's a couple that's near the volcano taking photos, and Rodan just kind of
the volcano taking photos.
Yeah, that seems dangerous on its own, Rodan or not, you know. But he comes by and the wing power just kind of takes them out and I think kills them. And
that's pretty bleak.
Yeah,
he literally just flies over them, and like the supersonic wind speed force just literally just stops their hearts or something. Okay.
So it just gives you an idea of what the powers are going to be this time around, which for the most part,
I also love that guy's photo is what they developed to get that photo you were talking about too.
Great.
Totally.
It's great, and it's before you see full-grown Rodan. Like it really that moment also really struck me on this watch. I was like, wow, that feels like modern. Like that's like the blurry like cell phone picture, you know what I mean? Like
there is something I thought before he lines it up with the animation in the book, but that just him going through the black and white negatives and then seeing the wing does remind me of those those faked old Area 51 UFO sightings or the Loch Ness Monster photo or something. It just has that kind of it's authentic, but there's enough questionable imagery there that you're like, is it real? Is it what we're looking at?
It's very, very subtle, very conservative in what it shows. Like it's literally just the tip of a wing, I think, and and then like the slightest part of the body. Yeah, and I have to say too, you kind of mentioned it before, Josh, but I really do think the effects in this are better, and I think that's one of the best that are better than the original Godzilla, and I think that's one of the best things about Ishirō Honda and Eiji Tsuburai's collaborations is it really just doesn't stop getting better. Like, and you see that in Mothra, like, you know what I mean? Like it just gets better and better.
They kept getting more money and also every time challenged themselves even more as well. Like you can definitely feel just the difference in visual, like what they were doing with perspective, what they were doing with color, what they would develop with framing, because we'll talk about it in the next one especially, but like this was obviously one that was also Academy ratio, same as the original Godzilla, and Mothra was the first one where they were like, we're gonna do full scope framing to make it feel even bigger with like some of the landscape shots and some of that, and like, so
it's amazing.
You could tell each time out they were like, we can do this better.
Right, I know. It really I mean, when you pump out that many of these movies, because they were pumping them out. I mean, every year, like there were a million of these, and it really is a testament that how long it took for them to start to get kind of bad. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
It's really impressive.
They have they have some shots in here too that I know they weren't really doing in the first Godzilla. With I think it's like how some type of projection or something, where there's one shot where the three planes are diving in and they go eventually under one of the bridges after they start shooting into the water, and it's done with miniatures, and I'm assuming some type of miniature vehicles that they have on wires or something for the planes. But it's genuinely impressive that they can still give off this exciting feeling of jets flying off and diving under a bridge right before
they literally
explodes.
try to do some like Top Gun like dog fighting vocabulary and editing as they're chasing the full-on Rodan around.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
Such an evangelist for this, and I'm like, I know, like, I don't want to sound too lame or whatever, but genuinely, truly, these effects like give me like I get like I get tingles in my body. Like I literally, this is like Stendhal syndrome for me. Like this is the most beautiful. I can't even like put into words how it makes me feel, and it is just like it is such a constant point of disbelief for me that people were capable of doing this and that we don't do it anymore. Like how is like putting somebody in a suit is like I can't believe that we let racist Americans in like the 50s be like, actually that's worse than what we're doing. It's like, no, it's so cool. Like what are you talking about?
It's way better.
It's genius.
And I also the miniature work for destruction is I love watching something like tangible explode instead of... Oh my
God, it's unbelievable. The level of detail they put into the sets they're destroying is like unbelievable.
I have notes in here where I was like, because in this one it's Rodan's wings, right? So it's like a giant fan is taking out their sets, and this was literally in my notes I had things like, yep, look at those shingles go. Look at that giant drywall collapse. And I was like, it's really impressive.
The fire,
so
the
small.
amount of fire that they are near.
It's honestly insane to watch these things crumble because they have to use the wind. They have to do layers of destruction, and you can't, like Josh was saying, like you can see drywall beneath the paint. Like it seems as if they just created these buildings on a miniature scale, had the same layers, or at least the images of those layers, so that when it crumbles, it looks authentic. And it's just it's some of the most impressive miniature work I've ever seen.
Here's something too that I clocked on this watch when I was talking about this, like still having like that Godzilla kind of nuclear awareness lineage. Is it really clicked with me this time. I was like, oh, that is what it looks like when an atomic bomb goes off, is everything blows over. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen the like footage of the nuclear tests with those like houses that get hit by the shockwave. It looks like that. Like that is like that symbolism is still very much here.
Yeah, it's like a giant industrial fan was taken to a house or something, right?
Exactly. like the image again, the imagery of a big like thing with wings flying over your city, and then there's fire everywhere and everything is getting blown down outwards is like very fraught imagery for this era. I think it's very like intense and real.
Both of these movies have almost identical shots where it does a wide shot of the entire city and the whole skyline is on fire. And it feels incredibly apocalyptic.
Yes, and that is what it would have looked like. Like that's what the atomic bomb does. It's crazy. Yeah. And I have to say the fire, I mean, I feel like we mentioned it really briefly. The other thing about Rodan that I like is so important to me is I think truly this is maybe my favorite like colors in any movie ever. Like it is really good. So it just has this like quality to it where it's like, because you even see it in Mothra, it starts to be like more vibrant and like more lush, but Rodan is so like kind of like muted and like muddy and like still like it feels like it's like it just rained, you know what I mean, where like everything is like kind of earthy and there's like these deep blues and browns and like kind of everything is a little unsaturated. It looks like a faded like postcard, but then it moves and you're like this is like this is truly, the colors are so gorgeous. And I think in the middle, when in some of the nighttime scenes, it gets a little bit muddled, and it's not the best. But whenever there's a scene that has the sky in it at all, I think it's like some of the most beautiful colors ever put to film, in my opinion. And
again, I was mentioning in the beginning about the forestry, the green.
Yes,
it's so lush. It's
so beautiful.
You're right. Mothra gets into it a little bit more, but it also feels as if, because this one's so focused on the military might, just trying to take this thing down. and then Mothra will get
the
into
final
more
30 minutes of this is kind of
stuff.
like an extended destruction sequence.
Yeah.
Of them like finding him on the hillside, getting that amazing shot of them all peering over the hill as you just get like the bird head just kind of rise over the horizon line and like look at them and be like, hey, who the fuck are these guys? And then literally start like sending the military jeeps like flying and smashing into rocks, and then getting chased by the jets and going flying towards the city where he just literally destroys everything, and tanks are rolling up and shooting at him.
That missile sequence goes on for I think 5 full minutes at one point. It's crazy that he kind of. I remember putting in my notes. I'm like, this is still
nonstop effect shots and sparks and smoke and it's slow motion.
He knows what he's doing. He's like, I need to use all of it before we wrap up here.
I think something. I mean, this Rodan is also a movie that I think is severely underrated, and every time I watch it, I like love it more. Like this is I think one of my favorite kaiju movies ever. It's really up there for me, and I think also on this, like I think it's so real. Like in a way, like the other ones, like even Mothra is like very fun and like crazy and out there, but Rodan is like very grounded. And I think like it's before they once the Versus ones came around, there were still some that were like serious-ish, but they got goofy and more than even goofy, they got like fantastical. Like that was just kind of the realm they were operating.
It got
bigger. It was like a fantasy world almost. Like they're like, you know, and you see it in Mothra with like
there's a giant alien from space and Mothra and Godzilla have to fight it.
There's magic and there's aliens and stuff. And Rodan is one of the like few early ones where it's like this is actually taking place in our world. Like this, the only fantastical element of this is that Rodan could exist, which is pretty fantastical, but it's treated very, very matter of fact, and it is very real. And
it's like there's a giant animal going around murdering and destroying things.
And this is another. I think I almost definitely brought this up when we were talking about Destroy All Monsters, but something that like Ishirō Honda really has very specific preoccupations about this stuff, and one of them is that the monsters have to eat. Like, and that's something that I think Toho, I think in recent years maybe even has like, you know, whatever their style guide, like Bible, whatever is that the kaiju are not supposed to eat on screen or something. I don't even know if that's true. But there's something that's so real and grounded and cool about like, oh yeah, Rodan does have to eat a bunch of big grubs. Like he doesn't just like absorb radiation from like an energy, you know, whatever, like in those new American ones and stuff. I think that's so lame. Like, and then Godzilla eats a cow in the first Godzilla movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's real. Like that's I don't know. That it's
and he's got to have a lady Rodan.
Yes, that's true.
There's love in the air.
Yeah,
literally. This is at a certain point, these characters are all like, this is getting out of hand. There's two of them here. And they respond by exactly what the military, how you think they would respond. And there's a switch about partway through the sequence, I guess, where like, you know, the whole movie has been like, yeah, Rodan's kind of fucking shit up and killing just random people by accident and whatever, but like it's scary. The whole movie has been scary until a certain point. And I like the gambit that he tries to throw in at the end, which he kind of does in the original Godzilla too, but the Godzilla is so scary and haunting in that original film. I don't think there's a real moment to be like, yeah, we really do sympathize with the monster. And I think in this one, you can feel the gesture towards what he wanted to do, which is that he wanted to have some feelings for the monsters. And we'll talk about how he develops it even further with Mothra, who is just not even, you know, even the destruction Mothra does is designed to be like, well, it's all incidental. You could have actually not done any of it. You brought it on yourselves. Whereas this one, it's a little bit more like, yeah, I don't know, maybe humans got ahead of themselves by poisoning the earth with atomic bombs and all this, and, you know, and digging too deep into the earth, all these things, whatever. It's the final gambit of this movie is that they do go, you don't feel very good about the military taking down these Rodans. You just go,
that's
you feel
actually
awful.
It's
so sad.
It's a really hollow feeling. Like and it's that again, it's that Ifukube score is just beautiful and so sad. That music that plays when they hit the Rodans, and they're both, the one is falling and dying and the other one throws itself down into the
military
lava.
does erupt the volcano,
Yes.
which causes the lava to rise up and hit one of them, and then it falls and collapses like into the magma, which again, speaking of the colors, like that magma hitting the puppet like looks really good. But you're watching this moment of, you know, the one Rodan mourning the other one as it died, and honestly almost committing like an honorable suicide.
It does, yeah. I think it kills itself. It's it's that music that is just going and just so. I mean, that music could make you cry with a
and
black
having
screen.
the young couple who you were talking about earlier, who were pointing out like the lovebirds in the cage and the two young lovebird humans, watching these two, like this couple just literally die right in front of them and stuff. Like there's there's some layers to it.
Massive like literal like vortex of fire too that just like comes up on, like it's huge. I mean, if you think about how big those like suits are, and then you think about like the screen is filled with fire, like that is a big fucking fire. It is, and it's real fire. It's so crazy looking, especially like just with that color. And then the movie just ends there basically.
It ends with them burning together. Like that's the last image as it fades out and has the score crescendo and everything. It also feels as if like you have the couple watching, but even the military, like the lineup of characters that we've seen overlook this, don't feel good about it. There's no smiling, there's no celebration. They're just like kind of, okay, we defeated it, that's good, no one else is going to die. But this felt like we brought this upon ourselves, and then we had to forcefully kill something that really was just living in its own nature.
Well, because the military kind of goes, we did our job, and then the two young lovers are the two who are like, damn, that was really fucked up. That was some deep love and pain.
It really
we just
is
observed.
an iteration on the Godzilla
happy
ending, like in a really interesting way. Yeah, I think. I mean, I guess I just keep harping on this, but I just think Honda's filmography is so rich and so fascinating, and I think so many people just consider Godzilla, the 1954 Godzilla, like the be all end all, and that's like understandable because it's an incredible movie and it really is the thing that like breaks through into the public consciousness. But it's like that was the first kaiju movie he made. Like he kept
there's like 15,
he kept rolling on these ideas. You know what I mean? Like there's so many interesting facets to so many of these that I think just get swept under the rug.
I think what people, because I think I had the same kind of idea of these films before I went into them, that don't get me wrong, there is a certain formula and pattern that a lot of them take, but within that, there's always these strange little details that are completely different from every other movie that you see. There's something different in every single thing. So I think they're all worth a watch, regardless of if you think you're just going to watch, okay, here, set up Godzilla, set up a monster, they fight. There's almost always something like a gadget that they come up with, or a certain character trait even that is kind of quirky in certain movies. There's always something.
I think like truly just the special effects are basically always more than worth the price of admission. Like I will sit and watch 90 minutes of a movie that sucks to see effects that look like this. Like that's just all there is. I don't know if you guys.
One of my favorites in one of the later films when they're versus is just a simple thing of some guy is in like a Godzilla suit and you can only see the foot, and then they composite all these little people running around the giant foot and everything. Just even that image alone is something I don't think I've seen in another Godzilla film. And so though the amount of different perspectives that you can actually take on this kind of thing is really cool.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen Gorath, that one. It's about the planet Gorath is going to crash into Earth, and so Earth has to like work together to avert the disaster. And it's kind of boring. It's far from my favorite, but I think it has truly my favorite like sequence of special effects ever in a movie, and it's a like South Pole like base, and it's just they build it in miniature, and it's just like it's literally just a series of shots of this base just working, like conveyor belts moving these like tiny things around, and like little trucks driving from and it's just like completely like, oh, this is this is as if they built an actual base in the South Pole for us to look at, and it's for a bad movie. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they just didn't. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
They showed up and they did their jobs, man.
Totally,
they were like, we're going to
totally.
keep pushing this in terms of the craftsmanship, and we're going to keep trying to, even if we're going to be like, maybe they felt they should have made the Godzilla a little bit more sympathetic, and they were like, let's give a sort of King Kong atop the tower being shot down moment for the Rodans as he, concludes this film. And yeah, it ends up being quite beautiful. I think these movies are a test for if you can feel something for a giant rubber suit.
Yes.
I can, and I think that makes you a better person than other.
And I think if you can't, I literally think you need to sit down and close yourself in your room and watch movies until you can. I think I genuinely agree that you are a better person if you can feel empathy for these rubber suited monsters.
Yeah,
you're living a life bereft of magic if you can't cry at the end of Rodan.
If you don't have empathy for Rodan, go to therapy. There's something wrong with you. Yeah, I agree. Honda even directing it with the sadness, having them scream as they're on fire together and everything. It's a very good finale.
Yes.
Yeah, it's well done. And if we're pivoting towards reductive rating round, I'm almost convincing myself that I actually feel the 4 on this. For me, it's still in the high 3 territory. And the only reason is because we've been super positive about the whole thing. And I have been very positive about most of this movie. The only thing for me that this one suffers a little bit from is the
human element?
Some of the elements of the people, which is such an annoying critique, because I don't normally even feel it that about these movies, and I don't even find it actually particularly bad in this movie. It's just I love it in the original Godzilla because it's an actual anti-war moral crisis that is being discussed amongst those characters, and the things that they're feeling are really connected to some of the anxiety of the imagery. In this one, I totally agree that some of that, the imagery is loaded in a very similar way. I totally agree that, the destruction has that atomic bomb anxiety. The actual discussion they do drop in that, similarly to Godzilla, Rodan is similarly, meant to be sort of mutated by, this perversity, this unnatural perversity that humans have unleashed on the natural world. All of that is in there. For me, I guess the haunting mood of that original film and how it develops in conversations with the characters and how the characters feel guilt-ridden about birthing this thing is something that I feel more out of that movie. And in this movie, the downtime with the scientists and the military officials is a lot of we're moving the plot along, and they're moving the plot along perfectly fine, but that's a lot of what it is. And so it feels a little bit more workmanlike to me. So that's where this film gets dinged a little bit for me. But outside of that, Honda's workman-like quality in terms of how he achieves these effects and how he builds the slow burn pacing, how he does the set pieces, and how he builds tension and stuff is all really excellently ratcheted and crafted. And there's so much to like about just how it works as a monster movie mystery, how it actually gives you the analog creature work in miniatures, again, the score, which is so well done, and some of the sequences that he was developing as he was going through here of giving you the structural, there's giant bugs and they're actually 1950s B-movie horror bugs or something, but then it's those are the food for the even bigger creature, which will be reflected in this creepy flashback amnesia wake up where there's eggs and then there's a giant egg and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And that stuff is where this movie really sings for me. And I see myself coming back to this one still, because this is my second time watching it and I did like it more. The first time I feel I was a little dismissive until the ending. The ending really impacted me, but I was like, he's just doing a lot of the same stuff again. It's whatever. This one, I was like, no, he is, but there's stuff that he's developing that's some of it's even stronger. And I have a feeling that this is going to become a comfort. I'm going to go back to this.
This is your message from the future that will happen. It's what happened to me.
Yes.
I've watched it many times and every time I like it more.
Yeah, so for now, I think I'm still going to end up in a very, very strong 3 territory, but I think I'm going to come back to this one again because we'll talk about it next, but Mothra is another example of it's just gotten better the more times that I've seen it and the more I've gotten accustomed to these movies. So Honda still does some really excellent work in here.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it pretty short because I almost have the exact same feeling as you. But strong 3 for me right now. But I had the same feeling as it ended when they had that like lovers suicide Romeo and Juliet ending with Rodan, and the military didn't even seem, and the two leads don't even seem happy about destroying the monster. It's actually a lot of sadness wrapped around in the ending. I do think that Honda's gotten even better at the destruction using miniatures, setting up the sets themselves. So yeah, I think it's something that is eventually going to get to the fore. I just want to watch it again. That being said, I mean, these movies are incredible. I just love watching them, no matter if I, really, really feel it or if it's just something I'm throwing on because I want to watch a bunch of sets get destroyed. It's fun either way. I have a great time. And yeah, don't have much more to add, to be honest. So strong 3 for now, but it's going to get there, I think.
Yeah,
you can. Yeah,
I mean, I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I gotta say, I love this thing, and it's just truly every time I watch it, I like it a little more. And I think, admittedly, I think it does sag a little bit in the middle. I think like it does kind of slow down in a way that's not. Yeah, you're totally right. It's not as like it's not as thematic or like evocative for
I just feel like there's a slightly more, even if I'm not totally invested in some of the human aspects of the other ones, like even Mothra, I feel like there's more personality within the characters themselves in those movies.
Totally.
There's not a lot to chew
There's not
on
a lot
here.
of character to latch on to in this one. I totally agree with that. But I mean, I just like, this is basically a movie crafted in a lab for me. I have to admit it. Like it really, there's nothing else. I mean, and my other thing too is
can't wait for
like,
you to make one of these.
Dude, it's my fucking dream. I mean, I don't know if anybody is allowed to anymore.
I'll go in the suit. I'll do hours in the suit.
You want to until you read all the behind the scenes sections on Wikipedia, how many people almost died.
Yeah, I did read that the dude that played Rodan fell like 25 feet
into
getting
the water.
wired.
Yeah,
crazy. So I'll do it though for the art.
I mean, wait until you hear about the guy who had to get his appendix taken out while wearing the Hedora suit because they couldn't get it off him in time.
All right, I'll do all the emoting. Okay, the dancing and stuff. We'll get a stunt guy for the rest of the stuff.
My other thing about this is just that I think Rodan as a movie is underrated, but I also think Rodan as a guy is underrated. I think he gets the bottom spot of like the big four or whatever. Like I think they just have never given him a shot again since this. He's never had another movie where it was just him. He's never had a Godzilla versus Rodan, which is crazy. Everybody else has gotten a versus.
That is kind of crazy.
He never got a straight up versus Rodan. And this is my campaign. I know it's too late now, and we're about to find out tomorrow when the trailer drops. But when Godzilla -1 came out, I was like, they have to do Godzilla versus Rodan as the sequel to this because it would make so much sense. It would be grounded. It's like the next movie. You know what I mean? Like it would be so. It would make so. But we'll see. I doubt it's going to happen. But it would be the best thing ever. And I just think we need more Rodan in the world. So
agreed.
Hell yeah, I'd be down for that. I'd also like to see someone do a Bira again too. I like that giant crustacean.
Yes,
totally.
There's some cool guys we could bring back, but yeah, that's going to wrap it up for Rodan here. We're going to be back, and we're actually going to be talking about another one of Godzilla's, perhaps even more iconic friends who seems to get a lot more attention. We're going to be talking about Mothra. So stick around. All right, we are back, and we are talking Mothra, the 1961 kaiju movie directed by, once again, Ishirō Honda, written by Shinichi Sekizawa, and starring Frankie Sakai and Kyoko Kagawa as reporters, or I guess She doesn't actually spend that much in the movie. Maybe not starring. She is top billed though, as reporters and his photographer, following the story of a ruthless businessman's kidnapping of two. We'll get into the craziness of this setup. Indigenous island fairies in order to exploit their. You would think mythical and magical powers, but not really. He kind of just puts on a show. Yeah, singing voice, and which unbeknownst to him, that singing voice involves summoning a great protector of their people in the form of a giant supernatural moth named MOTHRA. This one comes out 5 years after Rodan, where Honda took a little bit of a break and tried a few other types of genres again, and obviously, still did do some science fiction stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say not too much of a break.
No, not too much of a break. I was going to say he returned to this one, from what I understand, off the strength of the script by Shinichi Sekizawa, who had written a sci-fi movie for him. Called Battle in Outer Space. Now, I haven't seen this one, so Cam, how is Battle in Outer Space?
I watched this one a while ago. I remember enjoying it, but I don't remember too much about it, to be honest. This one is the main thing I think of when I think of Battle in Outer Space is the 2001 space station on the on the poster of it, which I is obviously pre, but.
Yeah, but I know that like he ended up liking this guy so much. This guy became the screenwriter for him forever. Like this guy was like, you look at all of those 60s and 70s sequels, especially the ones that Honda did himself, they were all written by this Sekizawa. He did Ghidorah, he did Versus Godzilla, Invasion of the Astro Monster, Ibira, speaking of which, Son of Godzilla, like all kinds of these movies. Like it became a guy Honda just trusted, I think, and to realize whatever few ideas he wanted realized.
And this was supposed to be this had two original writers before Sekizawa, right? Because
it was an original story. From what I understand, it was kind of a complicated story, but like the Godzilla producers went to writers for monster stories like these, and the writers for this one, who had the original story, published this in a science fiction short story magazine.
Yes.
As a result of that, and it was popular enough that, and they said, hey, we could turn this one into a movie. We actually like this original idea of the fairies and the giant moth, and like that was kind of all there was to it. And then Sekizawa comes in and was the one who was tasked with actually adapting it into the kind of adventure story, the old-fashioned kind that Honda would actually want to realize as a film. And he basically said, look, I took what he did in Godzilla in terms of screenplay and in terms of structure, and then I basically merged it as well with King Kong, which was something that clearly he had seen and was referencing back then. So if you take the basic story of Godzilla and King Kong and are like, actually it's about fairies and a giant moth, you basically know the plot of this movie.
I believe that the original Mothra story just got translated into English as well. I think there's a book that just came out like either maybe last year or this year.
Cool.
And they did that for the original Godzilla one as well, which is a cool read. I recommend.
When did they decide to actually put all of these monsters together? Because I don't think they mentioned Godzilla in these two movies. So I wasn't sure if this was like, I'm going to create different versions of monsters to create different effects and a slightly different story, and then I'll mash them all together. Or did it go along the way because the studios wanted them to fight? Or
I think the first crossover is King Kong versus Godzilla.
Right.
Which makes so much sense. Like that like you can literally see the producers on both sides of the world $signs printing.
Right, exactly.
Like,
so I think it was that. I think it was basically
awesome guy versus their awesome guy.
I think it was basically that, and then that was such a huge smash hit. They were like, well, what other monsters do we have? And basically started doing the verses off of that. And you even see stuff they started having like Frankenstein get in the mix too. You know what I mean? Like very like. Like they I think the monster, they were using their back catalog, but then also being like, well, what else?
Yeah, because I was curious. We watched a Godzilla vs. Mothra years ago prior to this. So I had never seen this original. So when they had the same setups with the fairies and the telepathic communication through singing and all of that, When I was introduced to that through the Godzilla version, I was only used to the first Godzilla, so it was a big curveball for me when it came to tone. But I didn't know if he set that up with all these inner rules so they'd collide together one day, or if it was a coincidence. So I was just curious.
I assume it's a coincidence. I mean, I think
I think they were just like, make us another alternative Godzilla, and then eventually they said, well, why not just put Godzilla in all the movies with these guys?
Yeah, you would think that one of the characters at one point would be like, God, these monsters just won't fucking leave us alone. This is terrible. Good Lord. Every year.
No. In these first three movies, from what I could tell, they were all completely disconnected. They were all kind of related because they were all made by the same people and have similar sort of styles, and they were at least developing. And the effects were similar, but yeah, there's no hint that these things are going to actually connect with each other. There was no larger Marvel Cinematic Universe plan to do so at the time. That
and then even once they started doing so, it's not like there was like heavy like continuity really either.
Totally.
Like they kind of
am I supposed to know this kid or this scientist? Probably not.
Like the next series of movies, the Heisei, are like completely in continuity with each other. But yeah, I think that I mean, not to be cynical, but I think it is just like a billing. It's a cash thing, I think. Yeah. Like,
and I still like them. I mean, they're great regardless.
You got to.
And Mothra, I mean, holds her own. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I mean, I have to have the boring person opinion here, which is that Mothra has always just been like my favorite non-Godzilla. Like just in terms of
Mothra's
design,
a great pick.
The evolution, I love her backstory. I love the fact that they introduce the idea that she is more of like a righteous protector rather than simply a destructive force, even though she is also a destructive force. So it gets to have its cake and eat it too. Yeah. She is just like one of my favorite characters. And in this one, rewatching it, because I hadn't seen it since, I think I watched it, Jamie, in prep for when we did that episode.
Yeah, and that would have made sense for me to do.
Yeah. And so you're totally right that like Godzilla versus Mothra kind of like speed runs like a version of this movie to get you to the point where like you get more of like the fuzzy flying form of Mothra you kind of love. And I remembered thinking that it was the better movie because it did that and because it included Godzilla. I was like, well, it's got both of them. Yeah, it's got to be better. And rewatching this one, I was like, man, why was I disappointed? Why was I disappointed that it takes like until the final 10 or 15 minutes to see the fuzzy flying Mothra? Because Mothra in caterpillar form is also fucking sick.
Yeah, it's pretty great in this one.
And again, the different points of views you get from watching this monster develop. One of my favorite shots in this movie is they do a kind of similar to the slug monster in the little village in Rodan. In this one, they do this this bird's eye view coming from one of the pilots, and you see the giant slug version of Mothra just worming along, and the size, the scale is unbelievable because you see these small houses compared to this 1,000-foot creature. It's
the
awesome.
Scale in this movie in particular is nuts. I mean, the like even like the sets they're building for this are gigantic and still so detailed. Like
even more so than what we were like. They even repeat certain elements of Rodan when it comes to the ritual of it being birthed. In this case, because Mothra has a tribe that worships her, you actually get a dance number as well as like a score that builds to the hatching of the monster and everything. It feels like we're getting a lot of elements from Rodan, but it's just expanded and much larger. So yeah.
Well, and I love the ensemble scale of it too, because like when you consider the fact that this like it has a cold open where essentially a Japanese like Navy vessel is on the coast of this infant island, and it's we're told it's an island used as a nuclear testing site, and these characters get caught in a typhoon, and the sailors essentially have to end up sort of abandoning ship, and they end up stranded on this island. And there's just such a mood to the opening imagery there, how scared these characters are. And, you know, I found that, again, Honda is so good at, again, just accumulating the scale of bringing in these characters, bringing in these locations, doing the slow burn sort of tension building. But I found myself really getting involved in some of the human story of this, of like these sailors who are so terrified. They're like, oh my God, we're on the island. Everyone says it's like Death Island because it's radiation poison. Yeah. And then they all come back. And you were introduced to this ambitious reporter character, Fukada, and his photographer, Michi, and they sneak into the hospital and discover that the men were, you know, supposedly protected by the uninhabitable conditions by the sort of natives who gave them this special juice that they drank. Yeah. And I just love the way that then they go, well, and then the government's like, what do you mean there's natives who live there who have juice? We need to get an expedition going and find out more about
What's crazy about this, too, this Mothra opening. So I feel like this is like, I don't know how common knowledge this is about the original Godzilla, but obviously I feel like everybody knows it's, you know, a metaphor for the atomic bomb, and it's like, you know, about the atomic bomb. But the actual like specific event that inspired the original Godzilla movie was specifically the Castle Bravo nuclear test in the Bikini Atoll. The U.S. did a nuclear test. They tested a bomb, they blew it up, and the fallout was like way more than they initially anticipated. And the fallout fell on a Japanese fishing boat called the Daigo Fukuri Maru, I think, the Lucky Dragon number 5. And there was a secret nuclear test, so the U.S. didn't disclose they were doing it, so these sailors didn't know what was going on, these fishermen, and just this like radioactive ash fell on them, and they didn't know what it was. They like played in it and like tasted it, and like were like, this is crazy. What is this? And then they started getting very sick. They went back to Japan, and doctors were like, this is radiation poisoning. Like, what, you must have gotten irradiated, but we don't know what happened. And they reached out to the U.S. and they were like, hey, did you guys do a nuclear test? And the U.S. was like, nope, don't worry about it. And these guys, you know, they suffered and eventually died. And it's like truly harrowing, truly awful. That's crazy. And that is specifically like, that happened the same year that Godzilla came out, and that was the event that inspired the story of Godzilla. And that is that is what's happening at the beginning of Mothra. This is a fantasy world where this is happening again, but it is being magically cured. And it really got to me this time. And because I was like, oh my God, this is Ishirō Honda being like working through this event in a different way and imagining this world where it's like, yes, we can save these people. Like, you know what I mean? Like
this is definitely the first like positive one that he makes.
and just seeing that reinterpreted at the beginning of this is so crazy to me.
I also think it's interesting though that this being one of the more in tone, lighthearted ones in a sense, it also has the most violence and the most moments that I feel are just outright harrowing, because like we just said, you know, the tribe gives these guys this like red potion or something so that the radiation doesn't kill them, and it actually saves them. So you know that they have, you know, good values and they're an empathetic group of people. And then later on, we're just going to see them be murdered and taken advantage of, and by one of the entrepreneurs, the guy, the character Nelson. It's just interesting that he has this. Just is showing them having empathy and being very kind, and then we're still going to show this harrowing image of them being gunned down with guns that they don't have, the technology that they don't have, and we're taking advantage of.
Well, this is where I felt that like Honda, again, using some of the similar thematic concerns he had previously of the, you know, the atomic bomb testing and the radiation, and like concerns that he's had in all of these movies so far. And of course, maybe even getting a little bit more literal with the imagery in the case of that opening. But what I love about this is that he does decide that he goes, okay, I need to expand. I need to have other things involved here. And so that's where you start getting into, I agree, Jamie, like the exploitation of the indigenous populations is something he hasn't previously explored through this, and then making also an indigenous monster is really interesting.
Yes.
And also throwing in the corporate greed element too, which is why for me the human stuff in this film, when we get introduced to like the Professor Chucho, who is the sort of anthropology guy. They also bring in a Dr. Harada, who's the radiation guy, and everyone is involved in this expedition towards the island that's run by a businessman named Clark Nelson, who demands that no reporters can come along, even though, of course, Fukuda is suspicious of whatever scheme is going on here in this corporate-backed expedition, so he does sneak aboard it. And, you know, during the whole send-off parade they do, that almost looks like a grand return from war like celebration sequence in terms of the scale of it and how big it is. But he really does develop this idea of like, here are these academic characters who mean well, who want to investigate these things, who have you imagine a sort of sympathetic perspective that Honda has, and their mission, they're involved, they're complicit in this corrupt mission to go and basically find this material and find this data and seize it as part of a top secret mission. And they go, oh my God, we are basically the evil characters in a King Kong or like the Lost World kind of, you know, they have this realization as they go into the jungle, but it's just expressionistically expanded on in terms of the imagery, because you have them going into the jungle and there's like, look at these strange colorful blood-sucking plants and look at the crazy hieroglyphics, and what the hell, there's these two just like foot-tall native twin fairies played by Yumi Ito and Emi Ito, who Peanuts. I guess were the Peanuts, vocal duo known as the Peanuts. And all of the perspective filming of them is a whole nother effect he hasn't previously done. It's basically like the Incredible Shrinking Man. Like they had to film them on like, you know, giant sets that they could then scale down and put and, you know, composite into other shots that they filmed.
Apparently they didn't interact with any of the other performers because
it's pretty impressive considering they didn't. And the shot that got me though, I don't know what it was for you guys. The shot for me was when the evil businessman character grabs one of the fairies and like literally he's holding like an analog like doll,
it's a Barbie,
like a Barbie doll or something. So like I could see the scene, like I knew what the effect was. It still didn't matter. It looked like he fucking grabbed that fairy, and I really went, whoa, put that fairy down, dude.
One of my favorites is, and it reminds me of the Incredible Shrinking Man, where he's in the house and he opens the dollhouse door and the big cat is right there. There's one where they're in the cage, and I think the character Zen is looking at them and talking to them, and he's just it's his big face in the cage from their perspective. And I don't know, I love that scale of things, because we already get the, you know, the people to the monster, the kaiju that we see and have to battle. So now you have something even, you know, smaller in scale that's also connected to this larger monster. It's cool.
Incredible Shrinking Man, by the way, another movie that opens with the Lucky Dragon number 5 reinterpretation sequence. When he's on the boat, he gets hit by the cloud. That's what makes him shrink.
Oh yeah,
a radioactive cloud lands on him when he's on a boat, and it came out right around the same time.
All your favorite filmmakers were scared of the same shit.
I know, and it's fucking scary. I mean, I feel like that's one of those things where once you learn about that, it unlocks so much about this era of science fiction. It's like, this could happen. This was happening to people. Like, this is crazy.
And so much of it is this thing that feels, you know, like we're completely powerless to it, and it's just happening to us. Like, the rain of the radiated ash. You know, it's like, what are they going to do? There's nothing they could do, even if they weren't actively maybe enticed by it and playing
there's no you're just
that's why I love when they do communicate with the fairies. They're very friendly and they're very harmless, and literally through whatever communication they're doing, I think it's meant to be like a telepathy, I guess. But they literally just say, could you stop doing atomic testing on our island? That's literally the only thing they say to them. If you're going back with any message, please make it that. And, you know, obviously it's the Nelson, you know, entrepreneur character who is just like, well, I'm actually going to kidnap these
also, something I really like about this too is Nelson is not an American. He is a Rolisican.
I wanted to ask you about this. This is a fictional country that they invented for this.
I don't think
because they didn't want to make anyone internationally upset.
Basically, I think so. Yeah, and I think
because when they eventually go to it, they go to this country and they go to Newkirk City, and I was like, it literally just looks like an American city.
It has a different Newkirk City has a different vibe in 2026. I'll say that. I was like, whoa.
I think I read that it was supposed to be Russia and America put together. That's the fake country or
yeah.
whatever.
I really like when they do fake countries. They do it a little. They have in I think it's Godzilla versus Biollante. They have a fake Middle Eastern country called Saradia. And I think that just is like one of those things when you do have something like that and you treat it like it just is like that, it just is what it is. I think it feels almost, it's very it straddles the line between grounded and fantastical. You know what I mean? I like when they create these bizarre new countries for seemingly no reason and then be like, but no, it's a normal country. Like it's not Atlantis or anything. Like it just is. It's just Rolisica. It's one of the
lawns and
exactly.
Families. Yeah. There's also the performance that is it Jerry Ito that's playing Clark Nelson.
Yeah,
he is giving off this very mad villain performance. So there's not a tone where it feels as if he's complicated in any way or like as if he feels self-aware that he's evil. He's maniacally laughing while he's doing things. He's taking pleasure.
It's such a creepy laugh. I love too that I don't speak like any Japanese, so I could be way off base, but I feel like you can tell that he's speaking Japanese with a crazy accent. Like
there is even one moment where he tells one of his henchmen to I can't remember exactly what he's saying to him, but he's yelling at him in a very stern way, and he speaks in English for the only time in the movie. And I felt like that had to be something significant.
Well, because I wasn't totally sure if he was meant to also be like just like if there was a Japanese businessman who was like infected by Western influence or something like this. This was obviously something that there was a lot of, obviously we've talked about this in the Kurosawa movies that we've done as well, where it was just like Western capitalism making its way into Japan post-war was something that they thought they talked a lot about in their films, and I feel like this character kind of seems to be representing that, where it's it's an attitude that is, you know, unnatural and disruptive to what all the other characters in the movie actually want to do. Not to jump ahead really, really far, but it is, I feel like you see that even more with the very ending, like when it's literally people are praying to God to a big cross, and then the cross become like the heroes like kind of like almost like pervert the cross into Mothra's symbol and use it as like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like that very much is on this movie's mind, like the idea of like how does Japanese society kind of reckon with this Western influence? And like I think I was reading too that in the original script, it had far more detail about that part of Nelson's character and the inner workings of the West going into Japan. I think it's the screenplay by Sekizawa. He said that he wanted to take some of those ideas but make them a little bit more bare bones and focused rather than having so many inner working details, and just get he said use what's necessary, I think, something like that. That's it. I feel like it feels like an economical decision of just they can get the point, but I can keep things moving while also giving them the point across. Because you do, like, the second you see him pick those fairies up and you're like, well, we know what he wants these fairies for, and the second also the native population actually rises to be like, put those fucking fairies down, and they do,
and he slaughters them. Like, that scene is wild.
Well, what's interesting is that, like, structurally actually he does put them down.
Oh, originally,
but then
before he comes back.
Right. Yeah, and that's what's interesting is he goes, okay, look, we'll fight another day, and he plots a more violent nighttime return to the island, basically the second that they're back, and that's when he comes back and guns them down, which, you know, turns out to be, as the other characters realize, like business as usual for this guy. They look, you know, I think Fukada, the reporter, is the one who looks him up and is like, yeah, he's stolen artifacts and he's stolen exotic women from foreign places before. He's clearly like, I think, you know, someone who goes into these countries and exploits them, looking for the next thing he can turn into a business, or in this case entertainment, because he puts the fairies literally on display in a theater as an exotic miracle of the atomic age, literally caged King Kong style. He refers to them literally as things that don't deserve human rights because they are merchandise. And he forces them to put on this musical show that's essentially art designed to look like their own land. Like, he's almost mocking, or at least trying to, you know, make a artificial version of what he believes is like the colorful flowers are there, the native dancing and drumming is all of there, and they're singing their song. He just doesn't realize that by letting them sing their song, they are actually calling their protector.
Yeah.
And I love all of their MOTHRAs
yeah.
do, like over and over and over again. And the simple cut that that Honda does to reveal that, like, as they're singing, there is actually like a cosmic distance being covered, like whether it's telepathically or whether it's actually through the sonic qualities of it. It's actually, the song is heard back home on their home island, and that's when it gets into that scene, Jamie, I think you were mentioning earlier, of them actually performing the ritual dance with the egg.
Oh my god,
the music getting louder and
yeah.
Mothra hatching in the caterpillar form. Like, it's such a sick sequence, and the fact that they like literally cut together is like, you know, it feels like that moment where he sees the eggs in RODAN, where it's like we're crossing time and space by these characters performing a song.
Yeah. And there is, watching them do it when they take the they take the I can't remember what are they called in the movie. I was going to call them the peanuts. The Shobijin. yeah. How is it said? The Shobijin?
I think so.
Okay,
it's
Shobijin. Yeah.
When they take the Shobijin, they do like this almost westernized version of their tribal dance, which is really interesting, and having performers do it around them. And then when they cut, I just think it's a cool transition to see this almost not, I don't know if it's a mockery. It feels like a mockery because they're kidnapped, but it also just feels chintzy and cheap and tacky compared to the elaborate set that you get with the tribal people. Mm-hmm. And then the amount too. I think there's like 12 dancers on the stage in the Western country, and then when they go to the tribe, it seems like 100 different extras doing it, and it just feels so much more elaborate and large in scale. And it's awesome to see. It just shows kind of the cheapness of the culture that Nelson is trying to present to everybody.
And I think the idea of just this, the like kind of plot line idea is also, this does feel like kind of one of like I don't want to say idealistic, because I don't think that's quite right, but there, like, I feel like Godzilla is much more of like a like kind of an anguished, like this is how people have suffered, like this is what has happened, and this is kind of, again, like an imagination of like, what if there was a magic potion that could cure these guys who got, you know, their lives taken away from them? What if because that's the other thing, is the Castle Bravo test, these tests that irradiated these fishing boats, there were people who lived on those islands in the Bikini Atoll too. And the US like kind of evacuated them, but like not really. And the place where they lived, the place they lived got fucked up like completely. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I think,
the thing is too, it's like, even if they evacuated them, it's destroying their home is not any better, you know?
And it's like, what if these people had access to a weapon that could fight back? What if they could like enact their will instead of just being kind of like,
I totally agree. Godzilla is far more pessimistic. This has like a fantasy quality to it.
And it's so like, it's almost with that opening sequence with the boat, because like the people getting irradiated from the boat, and then kind of moving into that expedition, and that like, again, that it really is intense when Nelson is shooting the natives, and it's like, I think it really feels like, you know, metatextually, like Ishirō Honda being like, okay, I said what I wanted to say about the boat, like, but here's what I have to say about like it goes, there's more, like even that one thing, there's more, you know,
they're actually gonna just gun down and massacre these
right, exactly, like it doesn't stop there. Like this one cosmically horrifying thing is not enough. Like and I think it kind of makes sense to me to couch it and hide it in like Rolisica, because I feel like when you really like when you like think about the history, this is very, very pointed and very like I think this is a time period where you maybe couldn't be saying stuff like this necessarily in Japan about America, you know, and having it be popular or like make a lot of money.
Well, I mean, for the first, what was it, like 10 years that America basically like controlled their
exactly, yeah. Like I don't think you could,
right? Like they I think they felt they weren't allowed to even say anything critical of America.
Right? No, totally. I think a lot. I remember reading a lot of people's first like images of atomic bomb wreckage were suppressed, so a lot of people's first experience of it was seeing Godzilla. and being like, oh, this is what it looked like. I mean, these it's so inextricably tied with, just that history, that awful, like painful history. And I think that
it's so sick to put all of this stuff into a movie about a giant fuzzy moth.
I know, it's crazy. No, there's nobody like him. He knows how to like to be able to like to suffuse that into this and not have it be like an awful downer. Like is so impressive. I mean, just like, yeah, because it really is a hopeful movie.
It does feel strangely optimistic, even, and doesn't still take away from Mothra's power that it feels radiating off the screen. Like when she erupts from the egg after the big tribal dance and everything, and there's this big musical crescendo, you do get a sense of her power. But it does feel slightly different because it's not just this purely destructive force. They even start to show you through the special effects, like the supernatural telepathy kind of quality of their communication between the twins and Mothra.
Yeah,
like
we can communicate our feelings to faraway places is how they describe it.
Yeah, and I love the shot that they do where they have this kind of, I think it's like a composite shot of them in this carriage cage that's going through the sky, but it's telepathically, and then they fade in Mothra as the larva version of Mothra, swimming in the ocean, and it's got its giant head peeking out.
Glow coming up from the water.
The glow.
It's crazy. I was like, just that again. It feels like, this is the third movie into this kind of this monster series that he's doing, and we're seeing more expression, just different shots, technical things that I haven't seen before, and it's awesome to actually use that to communicate.
How I can tell
as well.
I was really liking this movie on this watch specifically was that I was realizing that I was 50 minutes in and Mothra just showed up, like any monster.
And I'm not mad about it somehow.
And I wasn't. I was like, I've been enjoying the characters and the mood of this one, and the fact that then it goes into the summoning ritual. And I think it's because of some of this harrowing imagery we've been talking about, like doing the irradiated island and the sailors and showing the massacre, and you have these really stark historical ideas coming through, and the fact that he's then going, well, the fantasy, like larger physical manifestation of what I want to realize this as is coming, and when it finally hits, it is. I want to mention one, because I did look this up, because I was like, something feels different about this Mothra puppet, and I wasn't totally sure what. At the time, it was easily the biggest puppet they had ever built. In terms of the suit, because a lot of the suits have been like a guy in a suit. This was 6 people in the caterpillar suit in order to make this work the way that it worked. Like, that's how big and detailed. So this is the most detailed suit that they have.
That's what I'm saying.
Yet.
Those sets,
and
those
it shows.
Sets, man. Like the set to build a set for that is crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's what I mean.
And showing crazy things like, sinking a Navy vessel that Mothra in caterpillar form has like flipped over, like she's like a whale that capsized on it, or going to that spot where Mothra pulls up to the coastline dam and like shatters it. And
that dam
nearly drowns that baby.
Yes.
Yeah. And again, truly you feel, you don't want that baby to die, of course, but you do feel in those moments where Mothra starts to just destroy everything. There's always the feeling in the other two that, we might have deserved it based on some of the things that we've done.
Oh, this is the one we absolutely,
right. You feel Mothra's rage. You're just kind of on board with all the destruction going on. So it is a slightly different feeling watching this than it is in
and I love that they even have like the two fairies like mention that they were like, look, you need to set us free and take us home, or as they put it, a great suffering will sadly be inflicted on like even good people. Like they're literally like, Mothra's coming, like, sorry, Mothra's coming. That's just all there is to it.
I don't want
so if you don't want
die.
Mothra to come here, then take us somewhere else. Like they are warning them of this. So the fact that the characters literally like Fukada and Chujo specifically are like the imminent destruction is coming, please return the fairies home, and literally the logic behind the business guy's like henchman or like public facing speaker or whatever it is like, whatever some monster does is irrelevant and unrelated to our show. And they go, I don't know if it is, man. Do you hear that? Like, do you hear the squealing caterpillar on the way here that seems to be lit up in the water like a sun?
I think
it's coming for these fairies.
I think it's really interesting too to even have the feeling of them almost extracting like the twins' sadness and pain from being not with their people, and knowing that
we don't want Mothra to hurt anybody.
Yeah, and them extracting it for people's gain, like the scene where they're Mothra's on the way, she's destroying the ship, while simultaneously they're doing this very sad song to an audience that's smiling and clapping at them. There's some really interesting character layers to this. And also we have Zen, who is the researcher or whatever.
Yes.
At a certain point, he does like it's not fantastic, but he does almost a kung fu scene going up against 4 guards at a certain point that I didn't expect. It was kind of fun to watch him do that. So there's just all these different elements that I think that Honda's bringing to this one that feels.
This one really feels
bigger.
Yeah, it's a spectacle. This really feels like it's like you roll out for this one with the family, and it's like we got the action, we got the scary, we got the comic relief, like we got the emotion. It's really all there.
And of course it builds to the classic destruction disaster sequence you want to see every single time, except this time it's a giant larva caterpillar smashing through Tokyo, hitting highways and gas stations.
Oh my God.
Tank cannons are being fired at her.
The
best beat
scene is unbelievable. I mean, that sequence is crazy. I think too, something that is so cool about these movies to me is that they are like, in a lot of ways, obviously they are very original and like kind of, again, changed the landscape of Japanese film, but they are very, in other ways, extremely derivative of like what came before them. They are, and in a way that doesn't feel negative, but is very like it's so fascinating to me to see basically the Japanese take on like what was a very, at the time, like American genre, like the 50s monster movies. Like Godzilla was a ripoff of Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, and large parts of Mothra are a ripoff of King Kong, and a lot of these are obviously kind of ripoffs of King Kong, and ripoff is a rude word, but I think it's just really, really fascinating to see those ideas kind of taken and iterated on and like really investigated in a way that I think a lot of American films weren't doing. There definitely were a wave of great atomic monster movies that really were about like how the world we lived in the atomic age, but these ones really are like, they get to nitty gritty, you know what I mean? Like, and I think you totally see that in Mothra, where I just can't imagine a movie coming out at the same time as this with the same premise in America having anywhere near this, like both the amount of stuff on its mind and the like spectacle, like combined is and like the tonal
so balance.
Totally. Yeah. So, and again, really modern feeling. Like this is a type of movie I feel like that would feel like at home coming out like 20 years later than this.
Yeah, because I think it's that ensemble quality of it all eventually having these characters doing different things, but they all connect at one point, including the monster. It does feel very well put together in that way. The way it all comes together. Two things too that I love that are expanded on in this is they have it in RODAN for sure, but the miniature vehicle work in this specifically is unbelievable.
The little guys riding in the tanks.
Yeah, and the amount of different vehicles that they have.
The jets dropping bombs.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I love like the little missile trucks coming up and then shooting off like with that almost look like fireworks. And
stuff. The little fireworks coming out of the tubes.
It's great. And then the other thing is that we had in RODAN, we had that transition from the slug monster to the bird. I
was going to say the evolution is really important to hit because like it's one of the big character ideas of Mothra is that she has the two forms. She starts off as the caterpillar and you see her, and this was the part I was going to say, it's my favorite part in the movie.
It's great.
Where she climbs the Tokyo Tower.
Yes.
And she gets like halfway up. She's being shot at by tanks and jets and all these things. And you can't tell if like she gets hurt or because I think she gets hurt, or if she just kind of goes, fuck it. I've gotten halfway up. The tower's fallen over. Whatever. I'm just gonna take a nap here real quick. Spins into cocoon form after also like shooting some of the like cocoon webbing at some of the things around, like very King Kong, like swiping at planes flying around her kind of deal in cocoon form. And then does fully transform out of it, you know, in a moment where they shoot at like the giant, like it looks like she's in an egg, and they shoot at it and they think, hey, fire came out of it, a hole burst, we're good, we won, everyone. And then suddenly there is a fully formed fuzzy moth just flying out of it after they've shot like, you know, whatever, like lasers and tried to light it on fire and all these things. And so, her wings causing the exact same amount of like, you know, sonic wind force damage that Rodan's did, except now she's flying all the way to the fictional Newkirk City.
And the matte paintings in that sequence are beautiful.
Oh my god, there's so many,
so unbelievable. And I love the transformation sequence. I think it works so well in this movie too, because it really does lend this like it's not even that you know, these evil guys did this horrible thing on this island and massacred these natives, and there was immediately some type of like bloody revenge, retribution. Like there's so many warnings, and the larva like journeys across the ocean, and then it's like, even then the military starts being like, let's blow this thing the fuck up. And then it's like, okay, now you're gonna get like fucked up, you know what I mean? Like now I'm transformed, like, okay, I'm needed. She
swam across the ocean as a caterpillar to get to you.
Exactly,
like a warning.
She's a determined lady.
Like and like one last chance, like, okay, give them back, you know what I mean? Like, and it really does help this again feel like not even like more lighthearted, but it is just like, it's it really lends the feeling of that Mothra is a good guy, which is a type of monster that we don't really see yet. This is definitely the first good guy that we get. Good girl.
I even almost get this sense when I see the cocoon taking on all the fire that it's almost like growing her in power at a certain point too. It has that feeling to it, because it just feels like it angers her, if anything else. It's great. I love that sequence. It's so good.
And all the destruction that she gets to lay waste to, the cars she sends flying, all the machine gun firing, like failing to bring her down. Some of the, again, just in terms of the effects and the scale, these guys just kept being like, we're going to throw more in. We're going to get better at it. We're going to build it bigger and more detailed every single time you watch one. And there is a point where for sure they made enough of these movies that you were like, yeah, maybe we've run out of ideas of what we can do with a miniature set. But, you know, even watching these two back to back, you can see just the amount of craftsmanship and work that goes into this giant fuzzy moth destroying an entire city. And it's so impressive to watch take place, even as you have the humans running around trying to figure out what it is that they're gonna do. In this case, it's like I do love that the ruthless businessman's plan of getting out of this situation is to try and like hold a bunch of like children at gunpoint in front of his car, and the cops just go, hey, what? And just shoot him.
That is funny.
Yeah. But I think in terms of symbolism, this is once again like this guy's like actual, like what he is underneath his suit in terms of his personality comes out, and it's literally like rejected by society once they actually see it. I think that's supposed to be what's happening there.
Definitely.
And then there's the religious angle Cam was talking about,
right? Which kind of reminded me at first, and they do a switch.
They have to worship her like a queen in order to.
It reminded me of War of the Worlds a little bit.
Yes, the original, the 50s one.
Yeah, and then they do the spin, which I think is good for the character, where they're actually just comparing it in a sense of how they worship Mothra and have certain symbolism and everything. I think it was a smart move, because at first I thought they were wholly going with the 50s War of the Worlds ending where they're like, God's gonna save us, don't you worry.
Well, I like that it's kind of the
funny.
It's the like the relicicant, like their military gets completely fucked up, and then they're like you know, there's those like kind of priest guys who are like, now it's up to God, only God can save us. And it's it's kind of funny that then the main characters kind of have an aside where they're like, okay, we're gonna actually save the day, and we're gonna
We'll
like forget whatever they're doing.
God.
Like you can leave that to them, but we're gonna pray to Mothra over here.
That is funny that certain characters do have their
reject
War of the
old
Worlds
gods,
ending.
pray to the new
they
gods.
kind of do. It is almost it's like a joke on that ending almost. I feel like
That's great. Yeah,
that whole Newkirk City set and segment is like unreal. It's unbelievable.
Ridiculous.
That's probably like number one up there, top 10 movie sets I would love to just walk through. I mean, the water in that river. I like that there's also palm trees, it looks like.
It's so many different things, but put together, it's still idyllic.
I was like, is it New York? Is it LA? Is it San Francisco? I don't really know.
It's awesome. It's great.
Regardless, Mothra's fucking it up.
That's right. That's right. Until you give back what she came for.
Yeah, which I will say they end up doing on where they draw her symbol on like an airfield tarmac and do, return her delightful fairies to her. And I do love that, as we've been talking about, this movie gets to both delight in all of the insane analog destruction that all of the previous monsters have. And we've been given enough story here in terms of relationship to the characters, the relationship to the history that's being, sort of referenced, that all of it was being done sort of righteously. And if there was innocence being harmed, it was incidental. Mm-hmm. So she's obviously not villainized here. And so the moment where they fly away, I'm pretty sure the fairies are like, world peace. Yeah. We did it. All we needed was a giant moth to lay waste to an entire metropolis, and we've achieved world peace. It's a funny little, sort of like whiplash that the movie does. But again, that feels baked into the kind of like Honda trying to be a little bit more optimistic about his fantasy. There's something cathartic in what he's trying to put on screen
too,
here. And
this would also be, I think that he does keep this viewpoint, and you'll see especially in stuff like Destroy All Monsters and a lot of the Versus movies that feature aliens and stuff, is a huge theme for him is like aliens are some huge threat coming down and all the nations in the world needing to unite and fight against. Like, I think he really has this, I think it's so interesting because he starts out with this awful atomic bomb
it poisoned us and we're all dead.
Yeah, just like awful, terrible. And then kind of gradually turning that into like, well, if I can use that to spread the message of like, this should never happen again. And hopeful, like imagining a world where something that awful actually means that everybody comes together. And you can kind of see him parlay that worldview in real time, like over the years. And this is kind of, I think, the first inkling of it almost a little bit.
It is interesting to think of these three movies like Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra as kind of a trilogy. And this is where it ends with this optimistic world peace. We can come together.
Right. It is kind of a beautiful ending. I mean, it is one of the more beautiful endings. It's funny because there's also Varan, which is another like solo monster movie that came out between Rodan and Mothra, but Varan just never caught on. He just doesn't have the it factor.
Poor Varan.
I know. Yeah, I feel bad for him.
Poor Varan. I'm looking at him. He kind of just looks like a mix of Godzilla and Anguirus.
Yeah, he's kind of more of just like a mystical Godzilla. The movie is kind of, but
you hear that? You don't have it, kid.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
I think he pops up again in Destroy All Monsters, maybe like very briefly in the background. Like I think they kind of just like have his suit like on wires. But anyway, it's I think that
wow, he actually got two movies too. He got Varan and then he got Varan the Unbelievable.
Varan the Unbelievable is just an American recut of
Varan. Is that
yeah,
it's one of those. When they
basically all
they
of
put it
these
as a
have
whole
that.
other movie. God. But take this off Letterboxd.
I know, it's crazy. It's so stupid. And then
I just got tricked into thinking there's two Varan movies.
There's two Rodans too, right? Because I think I'll go down the Letterboxd and they have an American version of that too. I think. When did they stop doing that? When was there like a sustainable?
Well, the thing is, the funny thing is, some of these are like kind of arguably distinct, like very slightly. You know what I mean? Like I think there is some like the Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters, those are like kind of different movies because they have like scenes put in and stuff, and some of those like are like recut, but it is just like does a different edit do we need that? I don't know.
Right,
on here. But anyway, I like yeah, it's funny because it does feel like Mothra is kind of a bookend where like like these.
Do they even have the French one listed here? Sorry to interrupt you. Godzilla, the monster of the Pacific
the French
Ocean.
one is crazy.
This was the Godzilla cut specifically for French audiences.
I tracked this one down. It's really interesting because it's parts of the Japanese one and parts of the American one, and the way that you can tell it's the French cut is because the title card is mirrored. It's in reverse because they just like screwed up the title card on it. But somebody uploaded that to Internet Archive a few years ago. Somebody did that. So if anyone's interested,
a deep dive into
somebody who
Godzilla.
isn't me put that up there. There's also the Italian one, Godzilla, which is from the 70s, and it's colorized and also includes real footage of atomic bomb victims.
What? Holy! I leave it to the Italians to grit it up like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole world out there.
Good Lord.
I forget what I was even going to say when I was bringing it for
There's a whole other world out here. I need to watch some of these.
Yeah, that's insane.
Atragon. You know what I recommend?
Atragon, I almost watched.
Cool. You should watch Matango. That one's not a giant monster movie, but that movie is really good. That's like mutant mushroom men on an island.
Okay.
You know what's something I like that these aren't Honda, but I think they're from the 90s or 2000s. Is the Gamera series?
Yes. Oh yeah. Shusuke Kaneko. Yeah, those are great. Those are so good. The three they're
Gamera
awesome ones.
And
dude,
it's cool to see them it's cool to see them do modern stuff and then still use this kind of special effects.
Yes,
I love
that's what
that.
I wish they were. That's what I'm saying. If they could do shit like that in the 90s, if they could just like buckle down and like do that today, it would be the best movie ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if they could just like, if they could just put the resources they have towards making suits like that again. I mean, because it's just unbelievable. It's just and Shin Godzilla was supposed to have animatronics in it, and they cut the scenes with the animatronics. Like you can see the behind the scenes videos of like a crazy animatronic Shin Godzilla being like.
The Shin Godzilla design is crazy too.
I know. It's just
he looks so fucked up,
dude. I can't. This is my like basically my eternal like. Anyone who will listen, I'm like, they have to make them again. They have to put guys in suits again.
I agree.
Please.
I want it badly.
It just
Hollywood,
is
we are begging, we are pleading.
I love
Godzilla
once again. Like Godzilla -1 and Shin Godzilla are both great movies, but they just might as well not be the same genre. They're different. It's a different type of movie. Like it has to be a guy in a suit. I'm a purist. That is what it is. You know. It's different.
I'm trying to. I just made the joke that it's like they haven't done it since Crank 2, and I'm curious if that is true. Like, when's the last time they had a feature film big blockbuster?
They got to hire all those guys who are still around from the 80s horror era, like that guy who made the Deathstalker movie recently.
Oh,
did all those like
that would be great. I would love if he did that. I mean, that's exactly what I want, and that's even like a Psycho Goreman, which I thought was like. A fine movie. I couldn't help but just have heart eyes watching it just because they have all those like tokusatsu style suits. Like
I had the same feeling, man.
Yeah,
because there's texture. You just feel you could see that texture in the suit and everything. It's so cool.
It's great.
But Mothra is wonderful.
Yes,
Mothra is. We got off ourselves on a tangent, but this is just the way these movies make you feel. You watch them and you go, man, why aren't movies like this? Why don't they have this texture and tangibility?
It's so awesome. At the very least, I think it's such a gift that there are like 50 of these. You know what I mean?
There's so
many.
Like
we could live in a world where there were these three were all we had.
Yeah,
and you would just think about what could have been forever. But
they're all well made.
They're all well made. Like even the bad ones, you're gonna find something to love in there.
Yep.
Like it just is. It's such a gift to our world.
Yeah, you're making me. I have to watch this Frankenstein one because this looks crazy.
Oh yeah.
Frankenstein conquers the world.
Yes.
Ishirō Honda. It looks like he's fighting a Godzilla.
It's Baragon. Yeah.
I think there's something to be said about the shitty ones of these, because even if it is shitty, you were going to get at least one scene where a different styled monster destroys a city. And that's always good.
And it's going to look insane.
Yeah.
And awesome.
I always just love seeing a different monster design in general. So even if the people stuff in between, which is usually what sucks, is boring, you're still going to get something out of it if you like designs of monsters in general. So,
my thing that my like kind of judgment that I always think about when I'm watching like I said, I watch a lot of bad monster movies, and my kind of like judgment that I always think about, my lens is like, have you ever seen one of those movies where it's like an old monster movie or an old sci-fi movie and it's black and white for the whole movie, and then the very last scene they'll switch into color? I think this movie How to Make a Monster is like that. I forget that there's another one I saw that's like that, but it's like a thing they would do every once in a while, and it's so that you would walk out of the theater and you would remember the whole movie being in color. Like you would like you know what I mean? Like they would would spend the money to do
that's
color.
Crazy.
Like it's just like it's a poverty like row. Like it's like it's the worst thing you could do. Like it's a trick. It's a full trick. But the thing is, it works. Like, you don't have it in front of you. You are going to remember it being in color. And that's what I think. And I was like, when I watch a movie I'm sitting there for 70 minutes and I'm like, God, I'm fucking bored. This sucks. And then I get 20 minutes where a monster runs around and does something crazy. I'm like, I will choose to overwrite my memory. I will choose to fall for the trick, because you can let it work, and you can, and it's like, that
was a great movie.
It was worth it. Yeah, I did get to see that at the end. And the whole movie had that, in fact. It was that the whole time, actually.
Yep. And it will be until I rewatch it again and I go, God damn it, these first 70 minutes.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Because you're only wasting 70 minutes. And for guys like us, that's not that crazy.
No, it's not.
That's not that crazy. I've wasted more than that, that's for sure, of my life. No doubt. But I didn't waste it watching Mothra, which I think is actually a full front to back good movie through and through. And if we are pivoting towards reductive rating round, Mothra is a 4 for me. And this is an upgrade, because last time I didn't feel that strongly about it. And I think partially it was because I was going in with Godzilla versus Mothra in mind, because I had seen it and I had already kind of known the origin story. And I was like, oh, it's taking really long to get through the origin story. And she doesn't even become the full, fuzzy flying form until like the last 15 minutes of the movie tops. And I remembered being a little disappointed about that when I watched this movie the first time. And I don't know, this time I watched it, and I think it was also immediately following it up with RODAN as well, because I had already been like, oh, I'm kind of feeling the slow burn pace of these early Hondas more. I'm liking the classical adventure structure. I'm liking that he's pulling from King Kong. I like the tension. I like the way he's incorporating these, these historical elements and these themes that he's feeling, and whether it's the environmental or the nuclear or the military anxiety being pushed through the imagery. I'm really luxuriating in the feeling of it and like the mood of it, and this was the one that benefited the most from that for me. I think in part because I think he makes the themes even more complicated by throwing in the exploitation of the indigenous populations and throwing in the sort of Western influence and capitalism and the corporate greed and throwing in these other elements, and having the characters go through a similar like academics and reporters wrestling with these ideas in the same way that the film is trying to, which was for me what was similar about the original Godzilla, is that the haunting imagery of Godzilla and destruction was amazing and moody, but it also felt like a physical manifestation of like the moral conundrums and guilt that the characters were going through. And so I felt a similar connection here, where the characters and the monster is a physical manifestation of something the characters are actually emotionally and psychologically going through. So that was what really made Mothra sing for me a bit more here, as well as the fact that there's literally singing fairies, which is awesome. And also everything that you like about these movies here, the beautiful set and production design, the beautiful optical and creature effects, the Toho scope framing like actually is also something that makes the movie feel bigger. This continues RODAN, which was exploring with the psychedelic colors, and so there's so much that these guys were just putting into this film. And I think that Mothra, the qualities I like about the original Godzilla and the qualities that I like about RODAN that are separate from each other, I think are kind of both in this movie. And I really, really dug that aspect about it. And even though I can totally see that for someone else who watches it You're like, yeah, it is a ripoff of King Kong. They literally do kidnap these magic fairies. They literally put them in a tacky artificial show the exact same way they do with King Kong. But how he cinematically realizes that, how he puts on that show, how he has it musically and telepathically
it's a reinterpretation. I feel like it's
exactly.
Yeah, it's completely like, it really is like investigating the idea of King Kong, you know. And
what that would mean outside of an American context. What would it mean in our version of events, and how could we put our personality and our personal history into it? And I think all of that totally makes it different, so that it doesn't come off just that way. So yeah, easy 4 for me.
Yeah, it's a 4 for me as well. It was one of those movies that as I was watching it, I thought I was going to be more bored than I was, just given that I didn't know how long it was going to take for the destruction to take place. It did seem like they were taking a little bit longer for Mothra to actually be revealed. But I found myself pretty intrigued by most of the character stuff. Specifically, I thought Frankie Sakai and Jerry Ito play Nelson and Zen, I think were particularly good. Ito is he's just hamming it up with this kind of super villain laugh, and he's just doing horrible things throughout the movie, but kind of relishing in it. And
picking up the fairies like Barbie dolls. Yeah, I still think of that shot.
Yeah, it's strange too, though, for Honda to have like a tonal balance he has to strike, because he is making this a little bit more lighthearted than what we've seen. But at the same time, we still have that scene where Nelson and his crew go and just completely slaughter some of the tribesmen in order to get the twins. So it does have moments where he's not, you know, looking away from the horrible actions that the villain is doing in order to exploit this tribe and gain money from it. I think the Peanuts are really good. I think they're interesting because they
singers,
have this,
it turns out.
Yeah, good singers, and they have this interesting, like, the way it's probably because they're not talking to any actual performer, but they do have this way of feeling kind of strange and otherworldly. Just maybe it's because they're not natural actors, but
and that little
there is
synthy,
something different
like,
about them.
Melody thing that plays whenever it's like close up on them. It's kind of like the weird, like, like it's like
it feels otherworldly, and it does feel like they come from a different place or something like that. So I think that they're great with what they were doing. And I mean, just great color. The effects are amazing. It's basically expanding on everything that we love from previous films. It's just bigger. And so, yeah, just great movie.
Yeah. You know, I think I was going to go 4, but I think over the course of this conversation, I really think that I just talked myself up. I think it's a 4.5. I think I'm pushing it up.
Let's go.
Yeah, it really is. I think our conversation really did also kind of make me realize this does feel like a culmination. Because like we were talking about, this is like the last solo monster movie before they get into all the versus ones, and this really does feel like, in a lot of ways, the best version of what they were reaching for. And it really just is. Yeah, I mean, don't have much else to say that we haven't already said quite a lot. It's great. You can't beat it.
Yeah.
3 white boys talked about monster suits for 2.5 hours.
Dude, I can't get enough. I could watch only these movies for the rest of my life and be fully satisfied.
We will have you back on anytime you want to talk. At some point, we're just going to dedicate like a month of the show
to monsters. That'd be so sick.
We'll just go through like Honda's filmography or something with game.
Monster Month definitely needs to happen. I want that.
Monster Month. Yeah, I like that idea.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that is going to wrap it up though for Mothra and for this week's episode. That was against Rodan from 1956 and Mothra from 1961. Thanks so much, Cam, for joining us and lending us your passion for monsters once again. I'm sure that you will be back. Yes. Once again, for anyone who maybe missed it at the top of the show, where can people find your new and your horror comedy short that is part of an anthology film?
Yes. You can find it at patreon.com.
And is there a monster in it? Can you tell us if there's a monster in it? I think you need to be the judge.
Watch and see, and I'll say
it's called The Eater. That sounds like a monster to me, but
it's a mysterious situation that may or may not have an eater involved. But you'll have to go to patreon.com/chunkstv to find out.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Please do. We are going to be doing it. So
Oh yeah.
Can't wait to watch. For our listeners, we're going to be back in 1 week's time, where, as Jamie already alluded to, we are actually going sword and sandals fantasy mode, because there's a new movie by Christopher Nolan coming out called The Odyssey. And in order to celebrate, we weren't really sure what exactly we were going to tie it in, but we decided that we're going to go Ray Harryhausen mode. So we're going to talk about Jason and the Argonauts.
Nice. Yes.
We've not talked about it yet on the show. Very excited to talk about guys sword fighting skeletons. And then we're going to pair it, though, with, because that one was in the 60s. Harryhausen was still around also in the 80s, where he worked on the original Clash of the Titans in 82 or 83. So we're going to talk about Jason and the Argonauts and Clash of the Titans to get ready for, again, the headspace of the Odyssey, because I think tonally those films are going to be the same. And then in 2 weeks' time, we are going to have 2 special guests on the show who have not finalized what their movies are, because they are not on it. I am going to message them right after the show and say, guys, tell us what we're talking about in 2 weeks, so that our listeners can watch up and figure out what it is.
Something to do with history, perhaps, maybe.
And war,
Young Washington,
maybe. Yeah, that's the one. Jamie and I got to roll out. Actually, I don't even know if that's playing in theaters here.
It's definitely not in my city.
I don't think it is.
My wife's grandparents told me I have to go see it. They told me it's
oh my god.
That's awesome. Oh boy.
Yeah, we'll do that in the Melania movie.
Yeah, that's a good double
50 years from now, when those are considered classic old movies.
We probably fucking will too.
But until then, thanks as always for listening, and keep it sleazy.
Keep it sleazy.
Keep it sleazy, y'all.